When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs. Oh my gosh, we are always talking about this podcast is designed for you to have the tools that you need to design your life. So we do a lot of talk about business on this specific podcast because I have a lot of individuals that are small business owners, females that follow me on this podcast, many of you in all the other countries as well. But today is a very special day because we're going to be talking about dating. I really think dating is crucial. I'm all about the love, but dating is something that we probably don't have a lot of conversations about on this show. So Whitney Kobrin's with us today. She's our dating expert. She's definitely a relationships expert. It is going to be filling us all in on the latest on dating, how to make it easy, how to kind of break free of damaging dating patterns that we might see. So this is great information for you to pass on and forward this podcast to someone that you think might need it. But I have a feeling, even if you're happily married or if you're dating and you're happy with the person you've been with for a long time, that you're going to find some nuggets out of today's conversation to apply even to the relationships you have today. But before we get to Whitney, I do want to thank today's sponsor of the show, Peaceful Living. Why do we allow stress to compound in our lives, affecting our sleep and our daily rituals? The truth is, we all live with stress, but imagine what it would feel like not to suffer from stress. Are you ready to feel better, sleep better, and change your overall relationship with tension? Peaceful Living can help you bring more peaceful moments into your day. Peaceful Living offers simple tools, live stream, and on-demand classes, and a customized self-care success plan. Imagine if you had simple ways to slow down and restore your energy without taking big chunks of time away from your schedule. We know it's possible, and we're here to help. The founder, Roberta Hughes, will be your guide each step of the way. So visit Peaceful Living at the link below and begin your journey with a free membership. If you use the code LEAP, you receive your first month for free. I'll tell you, the other morning I woke up and I had a lot of tightness in my neck. And from the weekend, I slept a lot over Memorial Day weekend. So I got up and did one of her yin yogas in the morning, and my muscles felt so much better after about a 45-minute class. So I highly recommend checking her out online at Peaceful Living. And we have the link below for you to do that. Okay, let's talk about dating and love. So Whitney Kobrin is a renowned dating and relationship expert, coach, speaker, author, and podcaster, helping women break free from their damaging dating patterns so they can finally love their lives again. Whitney's been featured in Amazon, Roku, IU University, and numerous summits, podcasts, and online platforms, spreading her message that dating may be hard, but love is still worth it. Drawing on her training in psychology, matchmaking, life coaching, energy work, and embodiment, she teaches practical skills and guides you through the necessary inner work. Whitney, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
Okay, I have to know, and I know the listeners want to know this. You and I have been friends for a long time, so I know your story looking back, and you've taken a lot of leaps in your life, in your business, in your relationships. Why be a dating and relationship expert? What made you fall in love with that? Talk to us through the pivotal times in your life that shifted so abruptly that it really brought you to a place where this was what you love.
Oh, that's a great question. And it was definitely hard won. I struggled so much in relationships. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I had no idea. I don't think I went on any dates. I just met people and things happened and it went forward. I didn't know the formal process. My dad, I love him, but I wasn't really around him or raised around him. And so I didn't have that male attention. I didn't have that counterpart. I never went to a daddy-daughter dance. I think that I missed out on a lot. And somehow deep down, I yearned for it so badly that I chased relationships, and yet I was scared of them at the same time. And I did a lot of learning and growth and reading books. And I found a coach when I was around 30 that really started to shift everything for me, because it wasn't just something I was learning in a book, because I love to learn. I've always learned. I have a degree in psychology, but it was experiential. And it was about shifting my own energy so that I could magnetize and attract the right kind of people. And after I did that program is when I met my husband, who, ended up being my late husband, who passed away in 2017. But I never would have met him and found him and had that marriage had I not learned from someone else and done the practices and figured out what I was doing wrong. Because honestly, I think all of my instincts were wrong.
Okay, because when I introduced you, we talked about dating patterns. So I want you to really tell us, and if it's okay, I want to go back to that moment in your life where you met somebody, you worked on those things you needed to work on, and then found your husband, your late husband. What was that relationship like? What was that love like? What was your connection with him like?
So I was actually dating somebody else before that. So I had started to learn that dating meant that you dated multiple people until you got into a relationship, because I was very quick to do the flame out pattern, which is when everything is really hot and heavy, really quick, and you can't get enough of each other, and you're talking on the phone for hours. And then after a short amount of time, it just flames out, fizzles out. So I was finally dating in a way where I was dating multiple people. And I ended up with one guy who I was really sprung on him. I really liked him. He was perfect on paper. And honestly, he wasn't really that great to me. He wasn't giving me the love and affection and attention that I really wanted. I just thought, okay, I'm done settling. I'm going to go for someone really great. But I didn't realize that doesn't really work either. So while I was dating him, I was learning everything I could. That's when I found this coach. I was doing the practices. And I was really questioning whether this was the right relationship for me, whether this was the right person for me. And it all came to a head one day. I told him, "You tell me you love me, but I don't feel loved." And his response was, "Why don't you just squash down all your emotions like I do?" So I broke up with him.
We know that's not going to work. Okay, next.
And this was the guy that I was like in love with for at least a year, and broke up with and went back to. So as great as my relationships are now, I just want people to know that I wasn't born this way. It hasn't always been easy, that I was crying my eyes out, that I was frustrated as hell with dating, that I didn't think that I would ever find somebody that was my match. I felt like there was always these lower than me guys chasing after me that I didn't like, and then the higher than me guys that I was chasing after. And now I see that it is totally possible. When you elevate yourself in a calm and grounded sort of way, you know how to communicate, you know what to say, you know how to talk to men. Men and women, we are equal and deserve equal opportunities, but we are different.
Men are from Mars, different. Women are from Venus. I mean, we literally are completely two different species. I mean, we're so different. So you met your then husband. Did you date in court for a long time before you got married, or did you fall quickly in love with him and just know?
We actually had met 5 years prior. He interviewed me for a job, and that didn't work out. But then we ran into each other at a party and realized we knew each other. And I wasn't that interested at first. I was like, oh, he's okay. He's nice. I felt like I knew him professionally, but I could tell he was crushing on me. So we set up a date And it wasn't really a date. It was to talk about some app thing, business, marketing. And I had learned, be open, because this relationship I'm in wasn't really ticking all the boxes. It wasn't making me feel great. And so I just remained open. And I went out with Jason, and it was a Tuesday night. I brought my 5-year-old son on the date because It wasn't a date. And it just ended up being the most pleasant time I had had in forever. It was a 3-hour-long dinner, and it was just so nice to I felt like I finally was meeting someone at my level, at my equal, and it just felt right and natural. And I had just broken up with the other guy. And so we started dating, and within a year, he proposed, and then that year later, we were married.
Wonderful. And what was that relationship like throughout the time? How long were you guys married?
We were together 5 years, married
5 years.
About 3 or 4.
Yeah. And how was your relationship throughout that marriage?
It was a little up and down. It was a little tumultuous because we didn't really have the words for it at the time, but knowing what I know now, 7 years after he's passed, he burnt himself out. He was the type that just took the weight of the world on his shoulders and worked his butt off and did everything for everyone and managed the social calendar and, hosted all the parties and just burnt the candle at 5 different ends all the time, woke up at 4 a.m. to go work out. And he was like a machine. And now I understand that that's not sustainable. It's not, I looked up to him and admired him because I thought he was so amazing that he could handle all of that. But little did I know that it would actually take a toll on him. And he was in bed sick for at least a year. Long story short, he got better. He figured it out. It was stress related. He, got through it. But that definitely took a toll on our relationship. I was definitely more of a people pleaser then than I am now. So instead of standing up and saying, no, that's not okay, we need to do this or you need to do this, I just kind of let a lot of things go. And so I can see that now because it's been 7 more years of me learning and coaching and matchmaking and working in my own relationship now, that I see where it wasn't good. But overall, it was good. We never threatened each other with divorce or yelled and screamed at each other. I had been in relationships before that were really not healthy. So this one, he would give me the silent treatment sometimes, which I know now is absolutely not a healthy thing to do. We could pull away for a little bit, regather our thoughts, but you don't want to punish someone. So it was interesting, but we were very committed and had so much fun together. We traveled a lot. I think he knew that he was going to pass away. He actually had a dream as a kid that he was going to die at 37, and then he did. So the year before that, he took me to Europe. We went to music festivals. We traveled. We had so much fun. I think it was like his bucket list year. And, the fighting stopped, and we just really enjoyed the heck out of each other for all that time.
Let me ask you a question as a dating expert, because I don't want to assume. Should we take a lesson from every relationship that we're in and look back and say, what did I learn about myself that I can do differently in this next relationship, that maybe I need to work on myself because I'm insecure, or I need to work on myself because I project, or I'm not an open communicator? Do you feel that in every relationship, we should look back and realize that if it failed, it's not because of one person, it's generally because of two? Should we look for that thing or one or two things and grow from that, and then really look to work on ourselves before we jump back into the dating pool?
100%. Absolutely. And there's never going to be just one thing. It's going to be multiple things. But we are so quick in this society to blame others.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this in relationships that it's always, you did this, and everyone wants to be right. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to blame the other person, and none of that is healthy in relationships. If you love someone, you should not be communicating in that way at all. It's not a competition. It's us against the world. But it's always a two-way street. So yeah, it's never just one person's fault. Even in an abusive situation, not to victim blame, because I'm not trying to put blame here, but if the person is allowing themselves to be treated that way, then that's something that they are responsible for and doing.
That's right.
So that's an extreme example, but
I've been in an abusive relationship, so I 100% know at the time in any of my divorces or relationships that broke up, I was the immature individual that blamed the other person. As I look back on some of those relationships, whether dating or married, I now look back and say, I was incapable of being loved and I wasn't open the way that that person needed me to be available and vulnerable. And if I would have taken the clues, I would have figured that out. But I didn't realize how closed up and unavailable I was at the time until I worked with somebody like you're talking about and understood the tools that it takes to be able to fully embrace and love yourself, because we can only love another person as much as we love ourselves. So now your husband passes away and you move on. Now, do you jump back into the dating pool, Whitney? Do you work on yourself for a while? What happens through that grievance period? Because it really pisses me off when people judge another person based on how quickly they move on from grief or what happens in their life. I read a book about a gentleman that said he lost both of his daughters 2 different times in his life, same disease. And he said, and 2 of them were 18 months apart. So actually, I think he might have had 4 daughters and lost 3. He said, other people expect you to live in your grief forever and never smile again. And I just remember a text message not too long ago, and a good friend of mine, Julie Jones, which a lot of people have heard her name, her husband passed away. She took a photo about a week and a half later when she picked up a pendant that she had created from his wedding ring and some stones he had given her and his first necklace. And she was smiling in the photo, and someone didn't realize how damaging what they were going to do was, but they text back, "Are you smiling?" And I thought to myself, how do I delete this text so fast that she doesn't see it? Because why do we trap her in a jail that says you're not allowed to smile? She was happy and about how beautiful the piece turned out. So talk to me a little bit about that grief, because there are women that I think, or men that are listening, that are grieving a previous relationship, and maybe it wasn't their choice that someone broke up, right? It wasn't your choice that your husband passed away. So you feel like, this wasn't my choice. I was going to be with you forever. So you're grieving that loss. You're grieving that relationship. What happens then?
Yeah.
Where do people go?
Well, one piece of advice that I had heard and read was not to make any big life-changing decisions for a year. So I decided I wasn't going to get into a serious relationship for at least a year. I wasn't going to change my job for at least a year. I didn't think I was ever going to move. I just thought I was going to continue to live that same life for the rest of the 10 years until my son graduated. And funny, now everything has changed. New house, new state, new business, new industry, new friends, new groups, new school for my son, new daughter, new everything. So, but I didn't expect that at the time. I just thought things were going to stay the same. And when I met Tim, who I've been with now for the last 5 years, my late husband, some of his family stopped talking to me. So I definitely saw the
It was judgment. It is judgment against the person grieving because they're projecting onto you that they're going to stay stuck in the loss and the grief. And here's the difference. A pastor that stood up in just the last couple of weeks said, grief isn't about closing down your blinds, shutting your door, and isolating yourself. Grief is about leaning into it, moving through it. It will always be with you. You will never, ever, ever lose the loss. It's always a part of you now. It's just how do you live with that? And how do you move on from that? But it will always be a part of you. And I think it's the guilt or the shame that people feel like, but I don't want to forget about them. But you're not. You'll never forget about the experience.
You know, when you see somebody's kids that you haven't seen in a long time and you're like, holy cow, they've grown so much. And it's been 5 years. People don't realize when it's not your life, it's really easy to judge other people and be like, wow, that was so fast. But when you think about every single day that passes and you're grieving, it's just, grief is a weird thing too. You know, my philosophy is whatever I was feeling, I would lean into it. So there would be days where I would get together with his friends and his family, and we would all be crying one minute, and then someone would tell a story about Jason when he was younger, and we'd all be laughing. And so that what you said about Julie, I totally understand that. You can be sad for a long time and still have moments of happiness throughout it. And it's unpredictable. And, you know, there are the 5 stages of grief, but it's not like stairs that just happen one after another. You fluctuate and go in between, and depending what coping mechanisms you're using, that can slow down the process. So yes, being able to just feel the feelings and sit with it is super important, and something that my grief taught me. And now I know that. So now when I feel like my world is falling apart, I'm going to lean into that and find out why, have a conversation with it, listen to it, discover where am I pushing things where I don't need to push them, or what am I doing that needs to be changed or slightly shifted. Emotions will tell us that.
Let's fast forward now to dating. So you became a relationship expert and wanted to focus on dating. Why? What is the big reason behind that?
So I actually became a matchmaker first. Many years ago, I was in Toastmasters and I did a humorous speech contest about how dating is just like recruiting, and how the profile is like the resume, and you have to sometimes get a drug screen or references done. So that just planted a seed in my head that matchmaking would be this blend of psychology, which was my passion and what I loved learning and practicing, and recruiting, which was my career for 13 years. And so matchmaking was recruiting with a psychology spin. And so I started working as a matchmaker. And I have couples that are married now that I set up. I matched myself during that time. It gave me an opportunity to really get a lay of the land as far as dateable men. I just told, you know, they would sometimes say, well, you know, are you single? And I would just quickly shut them down and say, I'm widowed. You know, my husband just passed away and I'm not dating. And they wouldn't push after that. But it was, I knew that at any point I could change that and date someone, but it was really helpful for me because of my old patterns. And most people fall on one of 2 ends of the spectrum, where they're either the anxious attached style, where you always want to be in a relationship and you'll bend over backwards for people and you'll be the people pleaser, or people tend to go into this Miss Independent or avoidant side where it's like, well, I'm just too busy for this and I don't need a man. And
you just explained my husband and me when we met. I'm not even kidding you. I was like super Miss Independent, single mom. I was like, I don't need a man. And he was like, I need to hurry up and find someone because I can't be alone. And I'm super clingy. And I was like, oh, this is not going to work. That's exactly who we were when we met. It's just hilarious. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's funny how, that will magnetize people together. And
it will.
You know, that's why relationships are so important. So many people are just opting out of relationships nowadays. And what they're doing is they're hindering their own personal growth because
Why do
there's
you
a
think
certain
they're
amount.
opting out? Why are they opting out, Whitney? Let's just
Because
call a
it's
spade a spade.
because it's complicated, it's hard. People are much more self-centered now. So not only does that mean that each individual is more careful about who they're going to connect with and what they're letting into their life, but so is everybody else. And everybody's really guarded. We're all connected, but very superficially. One of my favorite books, and you see all the books behind me. I love books. I've learned so much about love and relationships from these. And one of my favorites is called Deeper Dating by Ken Page. And it really emphasizes that you don't have to look perfect and have all the right moves. Like, you need to be authentic. You need to be heartfelt. You need to let somebody into your inner world and your emotions. And this is being vulnerable. And the actual word vulnerability implies that you are open to attack. Mm-hmm. And so nobody wants to be hurt or attacked. So they stay behind this wall and don't realize that they're actually not showing their full self. And one of the 13 damaging dating patterns is called the fadeaway. And the fadeaway is when someone goes on a lot of first dates, maybe second, maybe three, but it always fades away. And the problem there is that they're not showing their full personality. They're not lit up about anything. They're just trying to say the right things and act polite, but they're boring the person or just not capturing their interest. It's really our unique eccentricities that make us the most lovable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I feel like a good relationship, once you've dated and you've gotten to know each other and you're compatible, a good relationship makes you feel safe. A good relationship fuels your individual growth. That person is supporting your growth and you become a better version of yourself because of the relationship. That is exactly how I feel like I've seen my relationship change both of us, and we've become more successful, happier, more comfortable, but you've got to feel safe. And the dating is really kind of trying that out, right? To see is this person going to allow me the space to be safe and be able to open up? Because everyone's super closed at first. I don't want to show you my underwear drawer if I just met you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I need to date a couple of times to really understand how you are. So you take people that I think your psychology training is what makes you so different in this, Whitney, because it's all about the psychology when it comes to dating, right?
I would add that. So my approach now is actually mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual or energetic. So if somebody is not having a lot of problems and they just need help figuring out online dating, they just need the practical tools, I can do that. I have a package for that. We don't have to get into all the psychology and the energy work and all that. I will tell you everything you need to know about how the algorithms work and how to do the right profile and how to communicate to get real in-life dates. But if you're not healed and whole in yourself already, that's not going to do anything for you, because it really is who you are being and how you're showing up. So it's the psychology, it's the mindset, it's embodiment, it's being comfortable in your own skin, being able to listen to your gut and your intuition and differentiate that between your fear and your anxieties. So yeah, it's definitely the psychology, but also the embodiment piece, which is really strung along through my whole program because it's so important.
Well, this is obvious that if you're out there dating or are afraid to date or have opted out of dating because you've had a lot of trouble, you do not know how to navigate this new world, especially some of you that might be a little older, like my age, and you've just gone through a divorce, or maybe you did lose a spouse several years ago and you're ready to get back into the dating pool and you're like, are you kidding me? I was married for 20 years. I have no idea how to get on an app or what to do. And it scares you, but you know that you really want a companion. I met a lady at a retreat and she's in her 60s, and her husband finally just got married, and they're like, you can really have an explosive love again and be in love at a later age. So I do think it's important for us to utilize the mentors and the coaches that are out there that can guide us through these things. And Whitney, you're the perfect person for that. How does someone reach out to you? How do they reach you? What is the best place for them to find you, or do you want them to follow you somewhere?
Thank you. The best thing to do is to go to my website, Whitney Kobrin, KOBRIN.com. That way you can link to my social media, you can link to my offers, whatever.
Perfect.
Book a call with me. I offer a free strategy call, and I'm working on a couple of quizzes. So those are going to be really fun to help you identify what your patterns are and what advice I would have for you.
Nice. I love quizzes. Those are my favorite things to take, because then I can kind of measure myself and gauge to see, like, do I need this? Do I not need this? Where am I in my life?
Yeah.
So I think those are great. And so thank you for doing that. So WhitneyKobrin.com, everyone. We have the link below. Super easy for you to just click on that and go find her. And Whitney, I just want to thank you for doing what you're doing and taking the charge on this and being out there. Anyone can be a matchmaker, but teaching someone how to love themselves, the psychology behind it, the mindset, understanding how to date and the complexities of it today, that is rare. So thank you for being out there and taking the charge. And for everyone listening, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you, that's it, that will ever be. There's not going to be another you anywhere. You are special and you are unique and you deserve to be loved. So dating is kind of where it starts. And if you need that help, Whitney is such a great guide for that. So I want to thank all of you for being with us today. Thank you for joining us week after week. We have had some amazing conversations in the last several episodes. So go back and listen to some of those. Previously, we've talked about mindset and so many other things that lead right up to this dating and love episode that we did today with renowned expert Whitney Kobrin. So Whitney, thanks again for coming to us all the way from New York and Bell Harbor. Thank you. And to all of you out there, thank you for joining us week after week. And until next time, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.